Hey everybody, my name is Brittany. I started studying the Bible in April of 2017, and when I first started, I knew nothing about it. It was a lot to learn, it was overwhelming, sometimes even stressful. So I wanted to start a Bible for Beginners Bible study, where I just go over the basic overview of it. I'm not into any explanations or anything like that, just so that you know where to look in the Bible for certain things that you want to know. Please excuse me, my allergies have started and it is hitting me like a ton of bricks tonight. Um, so last week we finished up Exodus, and this week we're going to start with Leviticus. So we ended with the tabernacle, the holy place, the Holy of Holies, where God would come down, be with his people, right? So we ended with God was still too powerful to be around his people because of his goodness and pureness and holiness, and because of all the people's sinfulness. It was too much for them to handle. So how are they going to fix this issue? Because God wanted to be with his people. Well, what they were going to do is let's remember this is before Jesus, so this was still in the time of animal sacrifices. They would offer animal sacrifices to God for many different reasons, to tell him thank you. They'd offer grain offerings and fellowship offerings. They would tell God that they were sorry, and with burnt offerings, sin offerings, guilt offerings, all that kind of stuff. And another thing that they did back then was God told them to observe sacred days. But it was a lot more in detail in this. And Leviticus kind of goes into that. With the offerings, there were certain ways they had to cut it, clean it, prepare it, burn it. Everything had to be exactly right. This whole book is just rules on how to do that. And then God appointed priests that were able to come into the Holy of Holies once a year, and were able to come into his presence. Those people were Aaron and his sons. Now remember, Aaron is Moses' brother, who's traveled with him this entire way from the Pharaoh and leading the people out, right? So Aaron and his sons had to follow very strict rules to be priest, to be able to appear in front of God. And we talked a little last week about, sorry, I got a lot of papers. Trying to find about their outfit that they had to do, that they had to have. And it had to be made just so. And they had to follow a different set of more strict rules than the regular people. They had to conduct the ceremonies in a certain way, do the offerings in a certain way. Everything was very specific and had to be done perfectly. I could never remember all of those. It's very, very specific, and my mind can't remember all of the laws and rules. It's something that you really have to take time and study. It's not once read over, know it kind of thing. Alright, another thing that's talked about in Leviticus is being clean and unclean. And while being unclean sounds bad, it's really not. You can be unclean for a lot of very simple things. Either touching a dead body, a woman on her menstrual cycle, a woman who's just given birth. Anything like that can make you unclean to be in the presence of God. That doesn't mean he thinks you're bad. That doesn't mean he thinks you're a nasty person, even though that's the way it sounds. It's just that it makes it harder for you to be in the presence of God if you're unclean. Let's see. So most of the ways that people became clean after being unclean, it was a waiting game. It was just taking time. They would cleanse a certain way. They would offer a sacrifice and then be clean again. And there was a lot of different rules and regulations, especially for women with our cycles and with childbirth and stuff like that. It was even different if it was a boy or a girl child. Sorry, I heard my kids. And the last thing I wanted to touch on was the Day of Atonement is explained in this book. It happens once a year, and one of the priests gives an offering or sacrifice to account of all of Israel's unspoken sin. So, say we're living in a town, and that town does this and this and this and this and this. The people in it, there's a murderer, there's an adulterer, there's somebody that cheated on a test. I don't know. And they didn't confess that. Well, the one day a year, the Atonement Day, the leader, the priest of that town, would go up and make a sacrifice to cover everybody, what everybody did for that entire year. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. I think I had something else about. Okay. And that day of year, the Atonement Day is when the priest could go into the Holy of Holies. They had to wash a certain way, wear special clothing again, burn incense to cover their eyes from seeing God. And so I don't know if you remember this from last week, but there's the Holy of Holies. Hang on, let me see if my phone can focus here a little bit better. There we go. There's the Holy of Holies and everything in it. The Ark of the Covenant. In my beautiful drawings. So yeah, that's Leviticus. A lot of people don't like studying Leviticus. Sorry, phone's not focusing. Because it is just, it kind of seems just like a lot of rambling and that kind of stuff, because it's stuff that we don't deal with anymore. It's the sacrifices and the laws and the rules and all that. Next week we will go over the book of Numbers, which is another book that people really like to skip over. Not gonna lie, I wasn't excited to read it at first because I was like, wow, this is intense. But it's still Moses and all the Israelites trying to make it to the promised land. Y'all have a great week and God bless.